We are in Joshua 11, and we're going to go through the whole chapter. I know that's a shock. I understand that, but I think we can do it today. If you remember very quickly that last week Joshua and the army had finished subduing the southern half of the kingdom that is going to be. And that would be from like Gilgal, Jericho, Ai. That's the most northern cities that they have conquered. And they've conquered all the way down to Kadesh Barnea, which was even off the map that we had last week. It was further south. And so after all of that, which we don't know exactly the timeline of that, but it seems to have been very rapidly. We conquer this city, we go to the next city, we conquer it, we go to the next city, we conquer it. So it's a continuous progression. There's no resting in it until we get to the end of that period. And then he goes back to Gilgal, he and the army, and evidently they did not lose any men at all in these attacks. And that is important to remember, that Israel was not being attacked. There was nobody attacking them, but Israel was attacking the ones that were the ones living in those cities, all of the ones there. And they were killing everyone in those cities that they could. Now, some of them were escaping. We know that because some people went back to Debar when the land was portioned out, because Caleb wanted to go into Debar, but he's now like 85 years old, something like that. And he says, I want somebody to go and to take back Debar. And they did. So we know there was some repopulation of them, but by and large, he's had a very successful plan, of attacking and subduing the whole country there. And then, of course, we come to this rest period of Gilgal. And just because you're resting after a long battle does not mean you're not persevering. You're not quitting. You're just stopping for a little bit to get your breath and just have a little relaxation, not having to fight every single day. And we all do the same thing. When we've come through whatever battle it's been that you've been in, and you will be in, if you haven't been in yet, just wait, your day's coming. And you will need a time to rest and recuperate your spirit as well maybe as your body. I remember in 2016 when I got out of the hospital, after about 20 days in this major surgery and all this stuff, I remember coming home, and then Sunday came, and it was like, I wanted to come, but I was so weak. I said, I just can't make it today. I need another week home just to get myself together, because it was an ordeal. Other people, when you go through, Catherine probably went through something similar when she had the COVID and was so many days in ICU. Thank God I never had to go in there. But she needed time to rest and recuperate after that. And if it's a spiritual battle that you've been going through, you still need time to rest and just enjoy being a Christian after the fight's over. You know what I mean? All of us will go there. I asked my husband coming down today, because I had put it in my notes yesterday, that in boxing, now this is what I think of by persevering. He did box for the Air Force when he was in there, well, maybe before and a little after Angel Gale was born. But in boxing, you have the fighting for 3 minutes. Okay, that's how long you're going to be. After that, the bell is going to ring. You're going to sit down, and you're going to get a little bit of water. The trainer's going to tell you, do this, do that, watch out for this. And then the bell's going to ring again, and you're going to go back to fighting again. Okay? And Pastor did to me one thing I didn't think about. He said, you need to know what to look out for. I don't know a lot about boxing. I never went to any of them. I just saw him when he came home. So, but really, he said, if you do not know what's coming from the other fellow, you can get knocked out. One of the reasons that that he could box was that he was left-handed, and most of them are right-handed. So when he was fighting these right-handed ones, and he's left-handed, they're not always expecting this left hand to come out and knock him out. I mean, they're not. He only lost one bout because the guy had knuckles, steel knuckles in the side of the glove. It was a mess after that one. That was the only one he lost. And he was on his way to the Olympics, but he had the car accident that he's told you about. But anyway, the thing with boxing is you fight, you rest, you fight again. It's all persevering, just like with us and our Christian life. Now, here we need to realize when we're resting and you're getting yourself back together, you're just enjoying being with family, friends, the devil is not resting. He is not resting. He is not taking a break. He is making plans. That if you are a Christian, your name can be on hell's blackboard, and they're after you. And if you're resting, there's a greater chance of him catching you off guard. You're not expecting it. You're just sitting there, as we say, fat, dumb, and happy, and the devil's over here planning your demise, your annihilation. That's what's going on here. So beware when things are going really good. Watch out, because something's going to be coming your way, okay? Now, with that, let's go to Scripture for chapter 11. We'll read the last verse of chapter 10. And Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, to the camp at Gilgal. And it came to pass, while he's at Gilgal, Jabin, king of Hazor, had heard those things that he sent to Jobab, king of Madam, and to the king of Shimron, and to the king of Ashshapha. I'm not sure that's right, but I couldn't even find it on a map. So whatever, it's a place. It was a place. And to the kings on the north of the mountains, and of the plains south of Chinneroth, and in the valley, and in the borders of Dor on the west. In other words, he has gathered just about everybody on the northern part of the country, from Gilgal north up to Dan. Hazor is just a little southwest of Dor, if you look on the map. So you get this picture. All of these are coming together because listen to the rest of them. To the Canaanites on the east and on the west, and to the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Jebusites in the mountains, and to the Hivites under Hermon in the land of Mizpah. And they went out, they and all their hosts with them, much people, even as the sand that is upon the seashore in multitude, with horses and chariots very many. Now, they're a well-equipped army. Israel has nothing but swords and maybe knives. That's about it. And maybe bows and arrows, but I'm not even sure about the bows and arrows. They had them when David was a king, but I'm not sure about here because we're talking a few hundred years before that. We know they had swords, though, and probably the knives. So they're up here, all these gathered together with their horses and their chariots. So verse 5 goes on. And when all these kings were met together, they came and pitched together at the waters of Merom to fight against Israel. all of these together. Now, this waters of Merom, this is a very, very small little place. If you looked on the map, and this is not by any means exact, but you got the Dead Sea here. Up here, you've got the Sea of Galilee, okay? And up here, you've got these waters of Merom. That would be your relationship. So it's a small place, but they're all up there. They're gathered together, okay? And they are going to attack. And what happened to my page? There. Fan. Should have thought of that. I mean, what happened here? That isn't what I'm reading. Okay. So they're all gathered there together with their plans. I thought of it as I was doing this. Have you seen the commercial for dry eyes that you have to get a prescription? And there's a little cartoon character that looks really weird with all spiked up hair. And he says, aha, this looks like a day for dry eyes and itchy eyes. And he's pulling levers. You seen that? That's what I think about when I see this. The devil's there saying, aha, looks like a good day against Israel. We'll use chariots here. We'll use some horses here. We'll get them all the way around. We'll surround them, you know. The little guy, he doesn't win, really, but Israel is. Let me tell you. The Lord, now Joshua, he is, like say, sitting there with all of his men, fat, dumb, and happy, just enjoying the day. And all of a sudden, Joshua gets a message from the Lord. And this is what it says in verse 6. The Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid because of them. For tomorrow, about this time, will I deliver them up all slain before Israel. You shall hoof their horses. What that is, they cut the hamstring of the back legs of the horses. And what it does, well, it was either kill them or do that. What it does, it makes them lame, that they cannot be used as war horses any longer. You could probably use them on a farm or something like that, but they are not going to be war horses because war horses have to be able to be agile and go in and out and around and about and everything else. They are going to disable these horses, he said, and burn the chariots with fire. Okay? Well, we're not even told when Joshua was told about this at all. All we do is know that the Lord said, don't be afraid of them, it's okay. Because Joshua has no plans of attack. If you notice, every time he went to a city generally, especially like Jericho and Ai, he was given specific battle plans. With Jericho, march around once every day. On the seventh day, march around 7 times, blow the horns, play the trumpets, and shout, and walls are going to fall down. That's the battle plan. When he goes to Ai, he sends people around in the back of the city. They're in the front of the city. They go to pull the men out of Ai. They're going to start running away from them. Israel is. The ones that are in back then are going to come into the city, set it on fire. Then the ones in front, they're going to turn around and start fighting the ones that have chased them out. That's the plan. Ambush them, okay? Here, he's got no plan. God just says, don't be worried about it. They'll all be dead by tomorrow this time. Don't worry. So, verse 7 says that Joshua came and all the people of war with him against them by the waters of Merom suddenly, and they fell upon them. Where the kings were going to do a surprise attack on Israel, the thing is reversed, and God says, going up there. Now it's 60 miles. It's 60 miles they've got to go to get to where they are at the waters of Merom. He said, go up there and attack them. It's a surprise attack. And what happens? Verse 8, the Lord delivered them into the hand of Israel, who smote them and chased them unto Great Sidon and unto Mizphath Maim, and into the valley of Mizpah eastward, and they smote them until they left them none remaining. So right there at the camp, or where they're all at, Joshua, 600,000, was able to slay all of those around them in that area. But there was something else that was going to happen, and that is some of them were running away, okay? They chased them. When they are persevering to the point where we just let them go, won't matter. They're going to keep chasing them wherever they go, and they chased them for a long way. I mean, they got all to the valley eastward until none were remaining. They're running along after them, killing them as they come upon them. Now, that's what we really need to think about when the enemy starts to attack you for whatever reason, and you're going through this battle with the enemy. Don't stop at the first sign of a success. Keep going and taking more territory. Keep going and fighting, because that's your strength. God is with us to defeat these things. Sometimes you're going to go through things that you're going to wonder how you ever get through it. You really do. And yet, when the Lord comes to you and says, don't be afraid, fight. Then when you fight, you can win. When Melinda Gay passed, wasn't a night or two after she passed, and I was going to sleep, and I saw in my mind a vision of her. It wasn't a real vision from the Lord. It was just in my mind, okay? It wasn't a vision thing. But she was in a very dark room and could not get out. And at that moment, I do not know why, but it came to my mind, this is of the enemy. And I never even told Pastor about it. I said, devil, I'm telling you right now, this is not true. I know where she is. And do not ever come to me again and try to torment me and try to make me not believe what I know is true. And he never came back after that. Never came back. I don't know if he was really afraid of me or not, but I'm assuming he was afraid of the Lord, because he never came back. That's what you have to do, is to stand up and say, don't you ever do this again, leave, and don't come back. And that will be the victory for you. Now, you all know that a couple of months later, when Terry's mother was dying, her last breath, right before that breath, because she'd been seeing heaven and light and all of that, her last breath was, Melinda's here. And Pastor Jim said, what? She said, Melinda's here. She closed her eyes and died. Do you not know that was on the 17th of December? That was a Christmas present to be had. That, because Melinda was the only person out of our whole family that Terry's mother knew that had passed away. She knew nobody else, but her and Melinda had just clicked it off. You know, they were just buddies down here. And when she said those words, Melinda's here, I could look back on that night when the devil tried to just give us torment and say, told you so. She is fine, and she's happy. And she's here to take Luella home. And Terry was thrilled about it because she didn't know if her mother was really saved or not. She prayed with her, but Luella wasn't changing an awful lot. I mean, she's old. Present company accepted, we're all older. But you know what I'm saying? She didn't have that much time to change. But when Terry heard those words, she knew Mama's all right. Mama's all right. You see what I'm saying? That's persevering through till you get an answer. You believe, and then in time, it will come to pass. The next day, God had delivered up all of these kings of the northern kingdom. Now, he didn't take all of them out at one time, even though it reads all the kings in this area. Like I said, some of them are going to be missed. Some of them are saying, I don't want to go. Count me out. I don't want to do this. But those that were there fighting against God, God gave the victory to Israel. And we still have not read of them losing anybody in battle, which is amazing. We always lose men in battles. That's the way war is. It's not pretty. It's ugly. It's hard. They haven't lost anybody. And then look at what he does to the chariots and the horses. In verse 9, it said, Joshua hoofed the horses and burnt their chariots with fire. Now, to our mind, to any commander's mind, we don't want to tear up good equipment. Chariots could have been a lot of help when they were fighting. And when you get into the book of Kings and Chronicles, you'll find that they'll put the king in the chariot and he goes into war in his special chariot. Duh. Even the enemy knows, oh, that's the king there. They even tried one time to switch over. But Joshua burns them every one. Exactly what the Lord says to do. And he took care of the horses. And the reason is very simple. If he had kept all those chariots and all those horses to be war horses and not farm animal horses or whatever, who would Israel be relying on when the next battle came up? Ooh. They'd be relying on horses and chariots. That's what they'd be relying on instead of the Lord. Now, the Lord's brought them through all these things up to this point. But how many, and it's true, all of us, well, Pentecostal, but we all know it, if we have anything else to depend upon, we're going to depend upon that before we depend upon God. God is the last resource. Once we've done everything else possible, well, maybe we should pray about this. Maybe we should do this. C.M. Ward, a long time ago, because he's been dead for ages now, but he was on the Gospel Hour, I think it was, on radio every week. He made the statement, if it keeps getting so expensive for medical care, we're going to have to go back to praying for the sick. Yeah, think about it. How many times do you rely on everything else but God? When we were building the other part over there, and Pastor said, we needed this $10,000, whatever it was, a huge amount to me. Anyway, the board, especially one board member, was saying, well, don't you think we ought to get a line of credit? And Pastor said, If you go to the bank and ask for a line of credit, you're off this board. And he was probably taking membership at the same time. Because he said, the Lord has said we're going to build it back cash. Do not go to the bank. And I told you about the one that had the lady come into church ready to pay for the building. Cash, well, check. But the pastor was afraid that they wouldn't have the money when they needed it and said, we're going to go get a line of credit and do that way because it doesn't look like God's going to do what I thought he was. And the lady left the service and told him, I came here to give you a check for that amount, but now the Lord won't let me do it because you did not trust him. And he thought she was a kook. So Monday morning, he looked it up. Come to find out, she was more than a millionaire. Could have wrote that check, and it wouldn't have been any more than writing $5 for you and me. But he lost it because he did not trust the Lord to bring in the funds that were needed supernaturally. God can do all these things if we will let him. Just step back and let him do what God does and believe him. He's not going to be late. You may think he is. It was 10 o'clock that night before we found out we had the money, but it was still that day. We still had 2 more hours to go. We could have had church a little longer. I mean, being as we were in revival anyway. But God can do if you will trust him. It's amazing. I'm still rejoicing over this deal of not having to have surgery in January. Every day I'm thankful for that one. But, it isn't anything spectacular we did. It was just, I said, Lord, I really don't want that surgery. And Lord knows I've paid for enough kids to get through college. So, I wouldn't want him to do it one more time. Now, going back to these, Joshua believed God. Just go in and start fighting. That's what they were going to do. Now, he also told him to burn the city of Hazor with fire. Of course, it would be with fire, but they want to make sure you know. Hazor and the King Jabin was like the head leaders here. They were the ones that when they said jump, the other kings around said how high. Okay, very influential there. And so Joshua, after they finished chasing these people, after they finished killing as many as can be, Joshua turns around and goes back to Hazor with men, of course, and he gets Jabin, the king, and kills him. And then they burned the city down. Now, they didn't burn all the cities. They only burned Hazor at this time. And that's because of, one thing, the corruption. Like I said, all of these people were idol worshipers, giving their children in human sacrifices. All this was going on with all these people in that land. But Hazor and Jabin were like the leaders of it. So he starts and he burns that city. But he didn't burn the rest of the cities. Why just Hazor? It was very few cities that they actually burned. They burned Jericho, they burned Ai, and now this one. They didn't burn everything because they could use it. The reason that they had to burn this city is because sometimes things are so corrupt that they cannot be redeemed. There are some instances where we have to literally, not literally, but you know what I'm saying, we have to burn whatever it is that is so corrupt that we are associated with or in us. I thought, how many times have we had friends or family members even, or maybe even stronger relationships. And when you become a Christian, that influence is still there. And it's like attacking you. It's going to attack you. Sometimes you have to literally burn whatever it is so it cannot be used for anything else. Sometimes, how many times have girls, men, whatever, been in a relationship with someone that they believe is going to be a Christian and serve God with them? And then turns out, maybe not so much. I knew a girl. He went to church with her, no complaints, went to Sunday school, just like the family. But once those vows were said, that was a turn. He turned out to be very cruel, very abusive. And finally, they split. She left. And fortunate to do so with her life, because he even had a gun to kill her. And she was able to get it and throw it in her toilet so it wouldn't fire. That type of thing, you need to burn and don't look back. Most of those things aren't going to be quite that drastic, but there are some. You're just going to have to say, I can't do this anymore, and treat it as dead, as burned up. Ashes you can't put together. Ashes just fly all over the place. There's some things that's got to be done to. And does it hurt? Oh yeah, it hurts. It hurts a lot. But that hurt can be healed. You see what I'm saying? When you do it because it's the right thing to do, God can heal the hurt. There are other cities here that they just left and didn't do anything to them. The reason there is because some things you can clean up and use again. I have a picture at home that's silver plate. Been sitting in the back of that cabinet for a good long while. And every time I go to get something out of that cabinet, I see that picture and I'm thinking, you really need to get this thing out and clean it up, you know? It's just turning bluer and bluer. I can clean that up and use it. There's sometimes that even again, relationships that might have been and then fallen and not so much anymore. If it's nothing really bad wrong there, little things, words can be said, I'm sorry. And you can clean that up and be best friends. I know a girl started going to beauty school to be a hairdresser. She went into the school saying, I'm not going to talk to anybody. I don't want anybody to be friends with me. I'm not going to be friends with anybody else. That's it. As it happened, there was another girl in there saying the very same thing, and the two of them ended up best friends. There are times that you can reuse something. You can make something out of it if it's not so corrupt. You see what I'm saying? We can keep some things, and they're good for us.
I've heard of young people who have taken their trashy books and whatever and CDs and literally burned them to get victory over all of that.
We tried for one person to burn a Mason Bible and something else on a burn pile in the back or in the field. That was the hardest thing in the world to burn that thing. I mean, it didn't want to burn. Well, it's a satanic Bible. I mean, what do you expect? Do you expect Satan to just stand by and not have a water hose to try to put it out? I mean, it's hard.
When they burned those, there were screams coming from the fire.
I believe that.
Literal hellish screams.
I believe that. I believe that. Oh, Satan is, he knows what's going on. But I believe those things because I just know. Okay. So there are some things, when I was thinking about this yesterday, the Lord brought to my mind Brother Peterson. You all don't know him. He was in South Dakota. He was district superintendent there for a long time. Really nice man. And we were going somewhere, and he began talking about baseball. Seeing Brother Peterson was a very, very good baseball player and could have gone on to major leagues. But when he got saved, that had to go. He said, I don't watch it anymore. I don't go to them anymore, not even little leagues, little ones, you know, because he said, I had to get rid of that altogether. And he just left it. And that was it. There are some things like that. You don't have to do it. You know, you can, it's not burned. You still remember it. You still like it, but you can't do it. You see what I'm saying? People that have gifts of being able to draw and have minds that they can, you know, see things. And we had the walls down there with those trees on them for years. One girl, she knew how to draw trees. She drew them, and we put the base coat on them, and they didn't look a thing like they did when we finished our part. But when she got through, they were great. See what I'm saying? She could be doing that for anything, but she used it for the Lord. And we're all like that. You can use it for the Lord. Allie made the cookie cake, and she decorated it. She decorates really good. She can draw a Buddy Barrel. I saw a Buddy Barrel on it. I mean, that's a good talent to have. But she's using it not just to make money or whatever, but she's using it to be a blessing to other people, even in the church.
Well, there's another one today.
There's another one in the...
It tastes good, too. It doesn't just look good, it tastes good. Look good is all right.
That's even better. You see what I'm saying? She could be out there doing this in a bakery shop somewhere. Of course, it'd be a little hard to corral those two little ones in a bakery shop, but you know what I'm saying? She's using something that could have been for ill. I don't know when she was saved, but I know she's been doing this a long time. But she's using it for the Lord. Don't destroy those things. Use them for the Lord. That's what he's saying here. You manage them. I'm just about through because I promised to let you go in 4 minutes. There's something that I wanted to bring out right before the end here. First of all, took Joshua, they think, about 7 years to conquer all this territory. Now, that's a long time. We thought 20 years. Well, you keep hearing that. We've been in Afghanistan for 20 years. It's time to come home. Joshua was here at 7 years, but he kept on, pressing on, pressing on, pressing on. Is it Caliphate, ISIS, something over there? They haven't given up. They've been waiting 20 years. And you don't know what they're getting ready to do. But they're persevering and doing whatever it is. You see what I'm saying? You're not going to win every battle the same day or the second day. You're going to fight some things for years. I forget how long Vic said it was about smoking cigarettes to take it away. You'll never see Vic without chewing gum in his mouth. because there's still that desire. Other people, no sweat. But for him, it's like a thorn in the side that God says, no, you're able. I'm going to give you strength to get through this thing. And he has gum all the time. If you keep on, you'll win at the end. There was another part that the Lord had brought these things, these battles against Israel. And he didn't do it all himself. He brought these battles so they would be strengthened. If you don't use your spiritual muscles, we'll call them, by trusting, prayer, fighting against, all of these things, if you don't use that, you're going to lose it. You're going to lose it because you're not exercising it. That's persevering. I don't like to exercise. I got stuff at the house to exercise with, and I just look at it and think if it was in a better place, it would make a little coat hanger thing or something, you know. But I know now I'm having to go into therapy. Is it working? I didn't think it was until I went out yesterday or day before, and while Pastor was gone, and did some weeding and thought, I'm going to be down one time. I don't have to get up and walk anywhere else. It's a safe spot here. But when it came time to turn around and get up, he usually has to pull me up. I was able to get up yesterday, and I said, ooh, this might be working after all, because I'm using it. But you see what I'm saying? God will let some things come to you that you got to fight through. But that's okay. Fight through it. You're going to start with little battles first, and then they'll get more and more as you go along. That's how it works. You're not going to go against Jericho first off, generally speaking, although it could be, but not really. But in persevering, if you keep going until your last breath, you win. You win. But don't quit. Don't quit. I don't care what happens to you. I don't care where it comes from. Don't quit serving the Lord. Keep on. That's persevering, because you don't know how close you are to the finish line. Think about it. We just heard news, somebody 42 years old had a heart attack or an aneurysm or something. That's young. That's young. You don't know where your finish line is. I don't know where my finish line is. But I know when I get to it, by the grace of God, I'm going to cross it and go into Jordan. I'm going to be like that old guy on TV. I'm going to keep using this stuff till I graduate from this life and go to the next. Keep on going on. You can win if you keep going on. You might not get first prize, but hey, any prize is good if you get into heaven. You don't care what it is. When you get there, it's going to be worth it all. Okay? All right. Now, I promised you I would let you out at 20 up so you can get into the choir room. So do not let me down. Go immediately to that choir room, okay? Thank you, Lord. Thank you for this battle that they won, even though they didn't even know they had a battle to fight. Help us, Lord. Lord, just to be aware and to be ready for whatever comes against us in this life. We'll be careful to thank you. For we ask it, Lord, in your name. Amen. Now, all of you can go get your swords. Be ready. Be ready for the thing to come. You know it is. People. Oh, my, moved a little.